You know, oftentimes as a content creator, one of the most popular questions you'll be asked is, what movies made you? Why are you such a big movie fan? Today, I want to give you guys 10 of the movies that made me who I am today. Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I wanted to give you guys 10 movies that made me the person that I am today. Now, that might be a bad thing for some people, it might be a good thing for others, it really just depends on your perspective. Now, if you're not new to my channel, you have heard me talk about all of these movies probably in passing over the years. There may be one or two that you're like, oh wow, I've never really heard him talk about this one. But all of these 10 movies mean a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. So I grabbed 10 of them off the shelves, and I tried to grab some of the older editions I had of each one just to kind of show my age a little bit. I want to go over each one with you. Now, I do want to preface by saying there's a couple on here that I did not grab off the shelf because I just don't own, and I don't know why. Like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That movie meant so much to me. Like growing up in the 90s, I was a Power Rangers kid, and that movie meant the world to me. I don't own it, I don't know why I don't own it, and I need to rectify that. But that's just one that I can think of off the top of my head. So starting this off, one of the 10 movies that made me is Saw. And this is the DVD that I got in the mid-2000s when it came out on DVD. I don't think it was like the original edition. I can't remember. I've had this thing for almost 2 decades. Look, I've told the story on my channel before of how when I was a kid, we used to go to Blockbuster as a family on Fridays. My mom and my stepdad would rent 1 or 2 movies. We'd rent 1 or 2 movies and a video game. And we would usually watch them together as a family. And we'd have to sit close to my mom because if there was anything on screen that she did not want us to see, she could be right there to block our eyes. Saw was another one of those Friday night watches as a family. Luckily, we didn't have to have our eyes blocked at all in this movie, but it was a tough watch for a 10-year-old kid. This movie absolutely floored me. I thought the idea was really, really cool. A guy that was morally righteous in a way, that was trying to get people to appreciate their life just in a really sick and messed up way. But actually, you could make the case, especially in this first movie, that he was doing it for good reason. But that ending shocked everyone. I'll never forget my mom's reaction on the couch when John Kramer stood up in the middle of that bathroom. I think all of us were floored. And it's one of those movies that'll never have the same impact as the first time you watched it. But Saw really meant a lot to me because I was 10 years old, and I hate this term, but it was kind of my introduction into the torture porn era of horror films. And it would really open the door for me in the mid-2000s to experience movies that honestly, I look back on now compared to today's times and I think are a little bit tame. But Saw, at the time, this thing was a game changer. Next up is going to be one I don't talk about a lot on here, and it's because I'm not a huge fan of this subgenre of movies. But this movie is always going to be near and dear to my heart, and that is Silver Bullet. Look, Silver Bullet was a movie that we watched as kids. My mom loved this movie. My mom is one of the world's biggest Stephen King fans. She's read a ton of his novels in her earlier years, and she showed us a lot of these movies growing up. Look, when I think of Corey Haim, when I think of Gary Busey, it is Silver Bullet. Like, that is just ingrained in my DNA. This meant a lot to me as a child. And this was back when I actually believed werewolves were real. Like, I was probably 6 or 7 years old the first time I watched this movie, and it scared the crap out of me. But I felt like I was well prepared in case I ever came across a werewolf because I knew one of its weaknesses. Now, I don't know if I would go on record as to say that Silver Bullet is the best werewolf movie I've ever seen. No, I don't think I'd say that. But I will say it is my favorite. And a lot of that has to be nostalgia. But I gotta tell you guys, if you haven't seen Silver Bullet, you're missing out. Because this movie is a blast and a half. And let's keep that train rolling with one of the movies that absolutely scarred my childhood. And that is It. Yes, the miniseries from 1990. Look, you guys have heard me talk about It and It Chapter 2 on my channel a lot and how I prefer those iterations to this one, but that is not to take away the fact that I think that this is far scarier and it had a far larger impact on my life. Because being a kid in the 90s, Pennywise was everywhere. Look, Tim Curry has done insanely iconic roles throughout his career, but I will always think of him as Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and I'm never going to not. Although I feel like this miniseries at times really kind of shows its age, and it's corny in a lot of parts, especially in the second half of it, Tim Curry steals the show. He's absolutely terrifying. The music, the iconography, everything about this movie with that damn clown haunted my dreams. I remember being afraid of drains. I remember being afraid of red balloons, thinking they were gonna like pop blood. I just did not at all messed with this movie as a kid. So while I much prefer the new adaptation we got of that story, this just has a special place in my heart for how much it absolutely terrified me. The next movie that made me is specifically Jurassic Park 3. Now, a lot of people would say Jurassic Park just because, oh yeah, it's the OG, right? Everybody loved Jurassic Park. Sure, but I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if I saw Jurassic Park until I saw Jurassic Park 3. This is the first one I remember seeing. This movie came out when I was 7 years old, and obviously, if you were like a 6, 7-year-old boy, you probably liked dinosaurs. So I gravitated toward this movie. I can't tell you exactly how I came across watching it, but I remember watching it for the first time on TV with my friends, and I was just enthralled by the Spinosaurus. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Oh, move over T-Rex, the Spinosaurus is the new big bad. Now, going back in my teenage years, I actually started to hate this movie because I was like, it's so short. It doesn't really have that much of a plot. And now as an adult, I'm like, no, this movie's fun. Like, it is fun. It's briskly paced. It gets going. It does not waste its time at all. And I actually appreciate that as I get older. I don't need a 2.5-hour movie where the first hour is just talking. Jurassic Park 3 is a blast. I will never forget scenes like digging through poop for the phone, or them, what I thought at the time, drowning while the Spinosaurus is attacking the boat. There's so much about this movie. And not to mention the birdcage sequence that is genuinely nightmare fuel. That is a horror movie scene if I've ever seen one. Look, The Lost World didn't ever really capture any of that. I will always maintain that is the weakest Jurassic Park movie, and I will die on that hill. But Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 absolutely had many, many moments of horror elements in those movies, and I think they are dinosaurs done right. Next up is going to be one that you guys have definitely heard me talk about before, and I grabbed one of the first editions I ever got of it, and it's a little different. That's Transformers. And what you're looking at here, I'm sure somebody watching has this, is the Megatron DVD set. Now, it had a sleeve with it. Lord knows what happened to that. Sorry, I'm trying to open it up so you guys can see what it looks like. It's got the discs on the back here. But it's Megatron. Look, 2007 Transformers. What can I freaking say? I was 13 years old. I was the target audience for this movie. When I saw this movie in theaters, it completely changed my life. I became a massive Shia LaBeouf fan. I, of course, like everybody else, was simping over Megan Fox. I thought the visuals were incredible. Optimus Prime was the badass in my eyes. And still to this day, almost 20 years later, I love this series. And anytime they come out with a live-action Transformers movie, I'm there. And I will be the first one to be an apologist and excuse even the weaker movies in the series just because I love it so much. Words cannot describe what this movie in 2007 meant to a 13-year-old me, and I'm forever grateful to Michael Bay. And I never thought I would say that sentence, but thank you, Michael Bay. And while we're cooking with gas, why not mention my favorite horror movie of the 1990s? And that is Candyman. Look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was surprised that my mom let us watch this movie when we were young. It's quite a dark movie, and honestly, it's not really attention-grabbing. It is definitely a slow burn, so I can't believe that I actually liked it as much as I did even at a young age. But there's something about this movie, whether it's Tony Todd, whether it's just Philip Glass's iconic score, Bernard Rose's directing, so much about this movie is absolutely breathtaking. And I feel like as soon as the movie opens up, it kind of grabs you. And even as a kid, there was something about it. And I think it also had to do with the Bloody Mary thing, saying the name in the mirror, oh God, it's going to come get you. That was kind of like an urban legend. Candyman became an urban legend for us too. You didn't say it, and you wouldn't dare do it in front of a mirror. This movie definitely haunted me in my early years, and still to this day, I find it to be one of the most effective horror films I've ever seen, and hands down my favorite movie of the 1990s. And also, I have to say, rest in peace, Tony Todd. Thank you for letting all of us be your victim. The next movie that made me is one that you guys have heard me talk about a lot, and you're going to hear me talk about it in depth on the next episode of Pod Goblins, and that is Child's Play. Child's Play, yes. Chucky, Charles Lee Ray. Look, I remember even being a kid, thinking to myself, why would anybody be scared of this? It's a doll. I would just punt that little bastard across the room. And then you watch the movies and you go, he's actually kind of shifty. He's kind of quick. He's kind of sneaky. Maybe I couldn't take him. I feel like it was this false bravado that I was just trying to put out there at a younger age. Oh, I could take this. It's just a freaking doll, man. But in reality, I was scared of Chucky. I think most kids were, because we all had dolls or toys of some kind throughout our house. And we always kind of worried if they were going to come alive. I mean, come on. I grew up in the age of small soldiers as well. Toy Story. Like, this was kind of a thing. Like, we just maybe one day thought that, I don't know, a toy could come alive. And if Chucky came alive, well, God help you. Look, again, what is there to say about these movies and this character that hasn't already been said? It is iconic. It absolutely scarred so many children and still does to this day. So, as Chucky would say, don't fuck with the Chuck. All right, now I'm going to get into the last 3 movies that I pulled that made me. And there was no particular order for the ones that I just showed you guys, but these 3 are absolutely my top 3. And it's for different reasons. And the first one is going to be Pet Sematary. Now, I've talked about this movie many, many times on my channel. You guys know I'm a huge fan of this movie and this series writ large. I'm disappointed in Pet Sematary 2 and Pet Sematary Bloodlines, but I like the original and I like the remake. And I'm just partial to that universe, so I'll always return if there were more stories to tell there. This movie as a child, I think everybody was scared of Zelda. Zelda terrified me. Probably one of the scariest horror characters I'd ever seen. And then Gage and the loss of Gage and Gage coming back. It's just so freaky. Everything about this movie, the way Rachel looked when she came back, Pascal, even though he's trying to help, he's creepy. As a kid, all that stuff was pure nightmare fuel to me. And now as an adult, it's one of the hardest watches I've ever watched. Like, I genuinely used to watch this movie every year, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that every year. Because the last time I watched this movie, it really, really impacted me. Because my son looks like Gage. And putting myself in Lewis's shoes and the way that Mary Lambert handles it in this movie, it is not over the top. It's not overbearing. It's not sensationalized. There's just enough shown to where you get the impact of it. And then the reaction, it really, really hurts. And then to see that little boy come back, you know, a lot of the talk of this movie is the scene with the semi-truck. But for me, it's after Lewis euthanizes him, basically. And he's saying, no fair, no fair. And it's just heartbreaking. Like, there's so much about it that is just terrifying. And as an adult and a father of a child, I hope I never have to bury my child, because as my mom would say, if I did, lock me up in the funny farm, because I ain't gonna make it. Next up is gonna be the one that I have maintained, I think, is the greatest horror movie of all time, but it is not my favorite. And that is The Exorcist. And look, The Exorcist, I think, is the possession horror film. I think it is the religious horror film. Now, this is not opening a debate about Exorcist versus Exorcist 3 or The Conjuring or Insidious, or I don't care. It's not what this is. This is just me wanting to heap praise on a movie that absolutely freaked me out. I lost sleep because of this movie. This movie is one of the movies that I think back to that caused more nightmares than any movie, like ever, for me. I could not stomach the idea that a demon could possess me or possess someone I loved and what that would do. Growing up religious, this movie really, really messed with me, messed with my worldview. It terrified me. It made you believe that there was evil all around you. At any given moment, it could strike. And that is true. Whether you're religious or not, we walk amongst evil every day. And The Exorcist is a truly gripping story. It is a drama. It's a family drama where an exorcism just happens to take place in that film. It is an incredible movie, and I still think that is the horror film. It is the granddaddy, and still to this day, it is the movie that all of these religious horror films are chasing. Because you can try to imitate The Exorcist, but you will never be The Exorcist. All right, I'm going to try to keep my composure here for you guys, so hear me out. Obviously, to nobody's surprise, the movie that made me the most is Halloween. This is the very first edition of any Halloween movie that I got on physical media. I got this back when I was 12 or 13 years old. It started my Halloween collection. As you can see, it's seen better days, but I have kept it. It starts off my collection on the shelves. It is the very first movie on my movie shelves. This movie meant everything to me. You know, at the time when I first saw this movie as a kid, I loved the character of Michael Myers. I just loved it. But I really started to gravitate toward the series and started collecting it when I was a preteen and early teenager because of, I guess, everything that was going on around me in my life. You know, like, didn't have an easy home life, didn't have an easy school life. It just wasn't really my thing. So I would retreat into movies. And the series that really got me through a lot of the hard times was Halloween. It was just the series that I could shut my brain off and find enjoyment. And there was so much to love about the series. I love the fall season. I love the iconography. I love the music. I love the characters. It just meant a lot to me. It was like a warm blanket. It would make me feel better on any kind of day. I can tell you, I vividly remember coming home from school and I would just turn on Halloween movies. I would just kind of escape reality. And this series did that for me, and this movie in particular. I probably watched this movie at the peak of my fandom when I was a teenager, maybe 50 to 60 times in 1 year. And I know that is incredibly excessive, but it just meant a lot to me, and it helped me forget about everything that was going on around me. And although I only have, a modest YouTube channel and modest presence on social media, all of that is because of this. You guys watching my videos, you even knowing who I am, is because of this movie, is because of me buying this DVD right here 20 years ago. This means everything to me. And although I will never argue that I think it is the greatest horror film, although I think it's number 2, it is easily my favorite horror film, easily my favorite movie of all time, and easily just a movie that is always going to occupy the largest space in my heart. And so, yeah, if all of that can be true when it comes to me and Halloween, then why am I not butthurt about Halloween Ends? Maybe that should be your guys' lesson, to get over it. So those are 10 of the movies that made me who I am today for a multitude of reasons. Now, if you guys are movie fans like I am, and obviously you are because you're here watching this video, I'm sure you love a lot of these movies too. Maybe there's 10 that you have that are vastly different than the 10 that I picked. Also, understand, these are not the only 10. These are just 10 off the top of my head that I could pick out off of my shelves that I said, this meant a lot to me. Only the top 3 were really like, yes, absolutely have to be top 3 most important movies to me. If you're a cinephile, if you collect physical media in any form or fashion, then you probably have many more films than 10 that made you who you are. But if you could narrow it down to 10, what are those 10? Comment down below in the comment section and let me know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like on it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.